The story follows Olivia Winters, a brilliant tech innovator who hides her billionaire identity from her dismissive, traditionalist legal family for a decade. When her siblings unknowingly apply for jobs at her corporation and her father attempts to pitch his law firm for a corporate contract, Olivia sees a chance to reveal the truth. Through interviews, confrontation, and a final family gathering, she reclaims her power, earns their respect, and ends her long emotional burden. Olivia Winters had always believed that silence was a kind of armor, thin, quiet, and underestimated until it stopped a weapon cold. She learned that young, as the middle child in a family where loud achievements mattered more than quiet ambition. Her father's voice dominated every room, her sister's accolades filled every conversation, and her brother's potential was treated like an heirloom. But Olivia, she lived in the background. Invisible enough to be ignored. Smart enough to take advantage of it. On a cold Monday morning, she stood in the top-floor office of Blackwood Tower, watching the New York skyline emerge from the gray dawn. From up here, the city looked like a circuit board, glittering lines, pulsing lights, millions of little systems working together. A map of everything she created. No one downstairs knew that L.W. Blackwood, the mysterious tech visionary the industry worshipped, was really her. Not her neighbors, not her acquaintances, and especially not her family. Her family thought she worked freelance tech gigs for extra income. They didn't know she rarely touched the worn-down apartment she claimed to live in. Or that her old Honda, the one that made her siblings tease her relentlessly, was kept solely for family visits. She liked her anonymity. It felt clean. But today, anonymity cracked. Her assistant Michael entered, holding a tablet with the kind of urgency he reserved only for lawsuits or hacking attempts. "You need to see this," he said. She took the tablet and froze. 2 resumes. Diane Winters. James Winters. Her sister and brother. Both applying for high-level roles at Blackwood Innovations. She scrolled further and saw her father's law firm proposal. A formal pitch requesting to represent Blackwood as its legal partner. Her breath slipped out of her in a sound that wasn't quite a laugh. For years, every Thanksgiving, every birthday dinner, every holiday brunch, she had endured the same ritual. Small smiles, sideways glances, still doing your little computer thing? They dismissed her so completely that it had never crossed their minds that the company taking over the tech world belonged to the daughter they tolerated. "What do you want to do?" Michael asked. Olivia let the silence stretch. Outside, sunlight crept up the buildings like a slow revelation. "Schedule the interviews," she said finally. "But not in the executive suite. Put them in the junior room." Michael blinked. "The one with the flickering lights and no windows? That's the one. And do we tell them who they're meeting with?" "No," she said. "Let's give them the full experience." When he left, Olivia walked to the window again. Far below, the street vibrated with life, horns, footsteps, ambition. 10 years ago, she walked those streets with everything she owned in a backpack and her dreams crammed into a cheap laptop. Now, everything was different. But her family didn't know that yet. Tomorrow, they would. The next morning arrived with a crisp sharpness, the kind that made everything feel a little too real. Olivia arrived early, slipping into the 15th floor observation room, an unmarked glass chamber made for monitoring interviews and internal studies. From here, she could watch everything on the small conference room's cameras without being seen. The room itself was unimpressive. Beige walls, old chairs, a table that wobbled if you leaned on it wrong. Exactly the kind of place where the company vetted junior analysts, not future executives. She sipped her coffee, watching the feed as Diane arrived first. Diane, always punctual. Always perfect. Her sister's heels clicked confidently on the floor as she entered. Her designer suit fitted so precisely it seemed sculpted. She scanned the room with mild offense, as if someone had misplaced her on the wrong movie set. Then came James, tie slightly crooked, eyes darting nervously. He sat beside Diane with a stiff nod. "They don't recognize the building," Olivia whispered to herself. Of course they don't. To them, Blackwood was an abstract name on magazine covers and billboards. A distant giant. They never connected it to their quiet sister, who avoided drawing attention. Michael's voice crackled softly through her earpiece. "First interviewer ready?" "Yes," Olivia said. "Send in Sarah." A moment later, Sarah Chin, Olivia's brilliant CTO, entered the small room carrying a tablet. She was young, late 20s, sharp-witted, intimidating in a calm, surgical way. Olivia had chosen her for a reason. "Good morning," Sarah said. "Let's begin with your technical backgrounds." Diane smiled the practiced smile she used on juries. "I've overseen digital modernization in several legal departments." Sarah nodded. "Which platforms? Which frameworks? What components of the architecture were you responsible for?" Silence. Diane blinked. "Well, I oversaw the general operations, you see." Sarah's raised eyebrow was a scalpel. James wasn't faring better. His understanding of tech was a collage of buzzwords he clearly memorized last night. By the time Sarah left, their confidence had thinned into unease. Round 2 arrived in the form of Marcus Rodriguez, head of innovation. He launched straight into deeper questions: AI adaptability, emerging technologies, digital ethics. The siblings flailed helplessly. "This is ridiculous," Diane snapped eventually. "We're applying for executive roles, not technician positions. We should be meeting your CEO." Marcus remained stone-faced. "This is standard procedure." James, pale and sweating, apologized on behalf of both of them. Olivia watched every second, her emotions a strange mixture of vindication, sadness, and something quieter, grief, maybe, for the sibling relationships that might have turned out differently if they'd taken her seriously long ago. By the 5th interviewer, the siblings' confidence had fully collapsed. Their polished exteriors cracked under the weight of every question they couldn't answer. Then Michael spoke through her earpiece again. "Your father is here. He's waiting in the executive conference room." Olivia stood. Time to begin the real interview. The executive conference room was nothing like the cramped interview space downstairs. Sunlight flooded through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating a long obsidian table and a skyline view that could silence anyone. When Olivia entered, her father stood facing the city, hands clasped behind him like a general surveying his territory. 3 junior partners stood beside him, clutching binders filled with arguments, diagrams, and financial projections. He turned when he heard the door. He froze. For a moment, confusion clouded his features. Why was she here? Shouldn't she be at her freelance job? Was she delivering coffee? Was she staffing? Was she lost? "Olivia," he said. "What on earth are you doing in here?" She took her seat at the head of the table, the seat reserved for one person only. "I think we should begin the meeting," she replied. He didn't sit. There must be a mistake. We're here to meet L.W. Blackwood." "Yes," she said, folding her hands. "You are." One of the junior partners flipped frantically through his notes, as if the answer might appear somewhere between the pages. Her father's expression shifted: confusion, then shock, then a dawning horror he couldn't mask. You're telling me," he whispered. "Yes," she said, her voice calm and steady. "I am L.W. Blackwood, founder, CEO, owner of the company you're pitching to." Silence crashed into the room like a tidal wave. Her father sank slowly into the nearest chair. The partners looked at her with wide, trembling eyes before she politely dismissed them. They practically sprinted out the door. Left alone with her father, Olivia felt the weight of 10 years settle on her shoulders. He looked at her the way someone looks at a stranger wearing a familiar face. "How?" he breathed. "How did I build a multi-billion-dollar company?" she asked. "The same way I tried to explain 10 years ago, before you laughed." He winced. "And how did I hide it?" She shrugged. "That part was easy. None of you ever looked closely enough." For once, her father had no rebuttal. This was a man who lived on the power of his voice, and now he couldn't assemble a single sentence strong enough to touch her. "You kept this from your own family," he finally managed. She stepped toward the window. The city shimmered below, alive, evolving, everything he believed she wasn't capable of shaping. "No," she said softly. "I didn't keep it from my family. My family never asked." His jaw clenched. "Diane and James applied here," she continued. "They just finished their interviews." He straightened. "And?" You'll hire them? No, she said. They're not qualified. Olivia, she cut him off gently but firmly. This isn't the law firm, Dad. I don't hand out positions because of last names. He looked away, ashamed, wounded, unsure. And for the first time, Olivia realized her father wasn't a towering figure. He was simply a man who had underestimated the wrong daughter. After dismissing her father's proposal, Olivia returned to the observation floor where her siblings still waited, unaware that their world had already shifted beneath them. Michael met her with a quiet nod. They've been asking for updates. Let them wait a moment longer, she said. I want them to feel the silence they once made me live in. She entered the small conference room. Diane and James turned instantly, relief, confusion, and embarrassment flickering across their faces. Olivia? Diane asked cautiously. Why are you here? Olivia sat at the head of the wobbly table, mirroring the position she took upstairs. Their seats suddenly looked too small for them. I'm here, she said, because your interviews are over. A beat. And you've both failed. James flinched. Diane stiffened. Failed, she repeated, incredulous. We are overqualified for this place. Olivia let out a soft, humorless laugh. You couldn't answer basic questions. We shouldn't have had to, Diane snapped. We were supposed to meet the decision-makers. You did, Olivia said. And then the truth unfolded. I own this company. I built Blackwood Innovations. I am L.W. Blackwood. Their faces, shock, humiliation, dawning understanding, were a perfect mirror of their fathers. How? James whispered. When? Diane croaked. While you were mocking my little coding hobby, she said evenly. While you laughed at my old car or told your friends I was too scared to get a real job. The words were knives she had sheathed for 10 years. Now she let them land. You all taught me something invaluable, Olivia continued. That sometimes the people closest to you are the last to believe in your dreams. Diane wiped at her eyes with trembling fingers. We didn't know. You didn't want to know. James leaned forward. Liv, we're sorry. Really. You just assumed I'd fail, she finished for him. Because it was easier than accepting I could succeed in a world you didn't understand. Silence thickened. Then Olivia stood. Your applications will not be moving forward. So that's it? Diane whispered. You're going to punish us for the past? No, Olivia replied quietly. I'm finally refusing to let the past punish me. She walked to the door, pausing to look back one last time. Go home. Think about what you value in a person. If success is only real to you when it looks familiar, then that's something you need to confront, not me. She left them behind, their shocked faces fading as the door swung shut. Ahead of her waited a new evening. A home they'd never seen. And the truth they'd never earned, until now. That evening, Olivia opened the doors of her penthouse, her real home, for the first time to her entire family. Diane, James, and their father stepped in cautiously, as if crossing into a world they'd once mocked, but now desperately tried to understand. Every detail in the room shimmered with quiet luxury: polished marble, floor-to-ceiling windows, curated art, and shelves filled with first-edition tech manuscripts. Her father looked around, stunned. You live like this? No, Olivia said gently, I worked like this. I lived in silence, because silence was the only thing you all gave me. They sat at the long dining table, its surface reflecting the amber glow of the city outside. No one touched their food. Finally, her father spoke, his voice fragile. I owe you a lifetime of apologies. Olivia met his eyes evenly. Not apologies. Understanding. He swallowed. You were always the quiet one. I thought that meant weakness. It meant thinking differently, she corrected. You valued noise. I valued creation. Diane reached across the table, voice unsteady. Liv, we didn't know how much we hurt you. You didn't ask, Olivia repeated. Her brother's voice cracked. We want to do better. We want to know you. The real you. For the first time, Olivia felt the deep, old wound inside her twitch, not with pain, but with possibility. You can't fix 10 years of dismissal in one dinner, she said softly. But you can start by hearing what you ignored before. And so she told them. Not about the billions. Not about the fame. Not about the headlines the world celebrated. She told them about coding through sleepless nights, about crying silently after family dinners, about pretending she didn't care, about building a fortress out of every insult, about the loneliness of success without witnesses, about being proud and heartbroken at the same time. They listened, truly listened, for the first time. When she finished, the room was silent. Her father stood slowly, walked around the table, and knelt beside her chair. A powerful man brought to his knees not by force, but by truth. "I'm so sorry," he whispered. She closed her eyes. Not forgiveness, but a release. Then, deliberately, she placed a hand on his shoulder and guided him gently to his feet. "You may stand," she said. "We move forward together, or not at all." Tears shimmered in his eyes. The moment felt like a reset, heavy and necessary. Dinner continued, not with laughter, but with the fragile beginning of something real. For the first time in her life, Olivia didn't feel like the quiet middle child. She felt seen. The next morning, Olivia walked into Blackwood Tower with no disguise, no lowered gaze, no weight dragging behind her. People greeted her as they always did, but she greeted them back differently. Lighter, brighter, taller. When she reached her office, she paused by the window. The city glittered beneath her, alive with purpose. It looked different today, not because it had changed, but because she had. Her phone buzzed. A message from Diane. "Thank you for giving us a chance to change. We'll earn your trust this time." Another from James. "I'm proud of you, Liv. Truly. And I'm sorry for every joke I made." Finally, a message from her father. "You built something extraordinary. I hope someday I earn the right to see the woman you became, not through my expectations, but through your truth." She didn't respond yet. Some wounds needed silence to settle. Michael knocked softly. "Press wants a statement about LW Blackwood's identity." She smiled. "Release it. Any particular message?" "Yes," she said, turning from the window. "Tell them success doesn't need to shout to exist." Within hours, the news exploded. Mysterious tech billionaire revealed to be daughter of prominent legal family. Journalists flooded her inbox, investors called nonstop, and social media sparked with admiration and shock. But Olivia didn't feel exposed. She felt free. Later that evening, she returned to her penthouse. It felt different now, no longer a hiding place, but a home filled with truth. As she poured herself a glass of wine, she noticed something on her kitchen counter, a photo her father had left behind. It was from her childhood, Olivia sitting at a computer, smiling at a screen, lost in code. On the back he had written, "You were always meant for this. I just couldn't see it. I'm trying to now." A single tear slipped down her cheek, but it wasn't from pain. It was from finally letting go. She walked onto her balcony, the night breeze brushing against her skin. The city stretched endlessly before her, glowing like circuitry, humming like a heartbeat. For 10 years, she had built in the dark. Now she lived in the light. Not to prove anything. Not to win revenge. But because she finally understood that success wasn't something she needed her family to validate. Success was the truth she carried. And the world finally knew it. She raised her glass toward the skyline. "To the version of me who never stopped." The city answered with its glittering lights. And for the first time in her life, Olivia Winters felt completely, unapologetically whole.